Thank you so much for joining me today for what I'm sure is going to be a fascinating discussion. I'm really delighted to be hosting this session as part of Accelerate Her, where we're going to discuss how leaders are championing the digital evolution. I'm Susanna Story. I'm Director General for Digital and Media here at the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport. And I have a fascinating portfolio that spans digital and tech policy, data, cyber, telecoms and media and creative industries. So it's really great to be with you today. And I am so delighted to be joined by Katika Roy from Pipeline Equity and Julie Dolman from Experian. I wondered, Katika and Julie, if you might just give us a couple of minutes introduction from each of you. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, there we go. My name is Katika Roy. I'm the CEO and founder of Pipeline. Pipeline is a software platform that increases the financial performance of companies through closing the intersectional gender equity gap. So gender plus race and ethnicity and age. We actually started with research. We did a research study across 4,000 companies in 29 countries. And what we found was that for every 10% increase in intersectional gender equity, there's a 1 to 2% increase in revenue. And that's the model that we use in our platform, which is essentially augmented decision-making, ensuring that every people decision that a company makes is actually equitable and also in their best financial interest.
Fantastic. Thank you. Julie.
Amazing. Hi, both. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Julie Dolman, and I'm with Experian, one of the global credit bureaus. I have two jobs at Experian. One is that I run global expansion of our consumer services business. So essentially, I get to travel the world. We have bureaus in 45 countries around the world, or a presence in 45 countries. And I travel the world to figure out how we can use our data and our technological capabilities to meet consumer needs. And I have a second job, which is I'm also responsible for innovation globally at Experian and a very customer-centric innovation program that we've recently rolled out across all of our regions and all of our 45 countries. So really looking forward to sharing a bit of my experience with you all today.
Thank you so much. There's so much that I want to get into with you both. We were going to start just thinking a little bit about the digital transformation over the last 18 months. And as you're hopefully already aware, the UK government is really proud of our tech sector in the UK and what it contributes to society and to the economy, and what we're all doing to make sure that the sector continues to thrive and prosper. But I'm also keen to understand some of the challenges that we face. And obviously the pandemic has drastically changed the way we all work, and it's accelerated that digital transformation. And many businesses, I think, have become more digitally enabled and focused. But also a lot of women have struggled through this time, some women losing their job, leaving the workforce during the pandemic, but also potentially female jobs are more at risk at these kind of moments. So I guess what I'm keen to know, both for good and bad, is what has surprised you about the digital transformation over the last 18 months, and what should we be doing about it? And Katika, why don't we start with you?
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. You know, what we know from the last 18 months are a few things. One is that we catapulted forward in a matter of 8 weeks in digital acceleration by 5 years. So you couple that with the fact that women's jobs were 1.8 times more likely, they were more at risk, and they lost the majority of jobs. And you have sort of this perfect storm for both all of the inequities that actually existed under the surface to come up to the surface, but also the opportunity to catapult our economic recovery. So let me talk about that just a little bit. One is that when we talk about, and it's something that we pay attention to quite a bit in the United States in terms of not only what the unemployment numbers are, but who is actually participating in the labor force. And that's not only an issue of fairness or equality, it's actually an economic opportunity. In the US, women have actually increased through their through their increased labor force participation since 1970, have added $2 trillion to the U.S. economy. So it's not only, and that's also true globally, but just as one data point within the United States. So it's not only an issue of fairness, it's actually an issue of economic recovery. But you couple that with the 5-year catapult forward in digital acceleration and trying to get people back to work, some of the jobs that women had, and women in particular, do not exist anymore because of that 5-year catapult. So looking at where we can actually not only increase women's labor force participation to at least pre-pandemic levels and continue to increase it, but also put them in jobs that are the jobs of tomorrow. And one of the issues is that women, there's only any majority of representation of women in 2 of the 8 jobs of tomorrow. That's an issue that's not only about fairness, but when you talk about things like artificial intelligence and the 28-point global gender gap in artificial intelligence jobs, that's an issue for everyone, because we at this moment have the opportunity to either hardwire equity into the future of work and digital acceleration, or hardwire our biases. And that's really that should concern everybody, because it's not just an issue of fairness for women, it's actually about opportunity for everyone.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Oh gosh, a lot's in there. Julie, over to you.
Yeah, so I thought I would tackle this question a little bit about what we've done in the last 18 months. Obviously, none of us could have ever imagined what would have occurred, and we believe that data was critical in really helping guide response to the pandemic. At Experian, we quickly pivoted and prioritized really leveraging our people, data, and capabilities to support government and businesses in their response. What I'm most proud of is that we took a very, very people-first approach to every single thing that we did during the pandemic, and I'm going to talk a little bit a little bit later about what we did with our people. But we did some really critical things as we saw this incredible digital acceleration. We worked tirelessly through our data labs and with our Experian data scientists to really help the NHS plan for future waves. We helped the NHS to really understand COVID-19 cases by modeling diseases and characteristics with daily updated public information. We supported local authorities and major charities with a data mapping tool called Experian Safeguard to really help identify areas with the highest concentration of vulnerable groups throughout this country. So there was a lot that we sort of pivoted to really take all of our people, all of our technical capabilities to just lean into all that we could do in the here and now to support. And that meant, a significant reprioritization of what we were doing, and a shift in the different roles that people were playing within our various teams, which certainly opened up opportunities for the people within our businesses to wear multiple different hats and try their hand at different things along the way. It's been an incredible time and journey of growth as well for us.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting to hear. I mean, I think it's one of those moments of transformation, isn't it, where, as you say, we need to both work on specifics within our organizations, but also, Katika, to your point, really try and hardwire equity into this digital transformation, because, I really like the words you use there, because I think assuming we continue with this exponential growth of the digital transformation in society, unless we kind of get it in at the ground floor, then we're actually building in further structural inequality, which will not help. And I take your point, Julie, on data, and certainly in the UK government, we feel that data has been one of the most important tools in the battle against COVID-19, because the ability to share information quickly at both local and national level, and the private sector and the public sector, has been absolutely key. And earlier this year, after a consultation, the government published its new national data strategy. And one of the things we want to do is commit to making sure data is used responsibly and in a way that respects individual rights and delivers fair outcomes to all members of society. Because, I think, as you're both saying, those fundamental principles are really, really vital. I thought I might take the conversation on just to think a bit about some of the use of tech in tackling critical problems in our society. And, tech is unique, isn't it, in the way it enables us to address some of these really fundamental problems facing humanity today, whether it is the health crisis that we've seen through COVID or obviously the climate crisis. I would be interested to know what issues you think are helping to lead the digital evolution right now. And Julie, why don't you go first?
Sure, thanks. So, Susanna, as you said, we passionately believe at Experian that we've got to use data for good. We believe that data has the ability to transform lives and truly create a better tomorrow. We help people and organizations use data to make a difference, which is why we absolutely believe that data-driven technology can and will help tackle some of the biggest global challenges and drive social good. In my global expansion role, I truly have the privilege of traveling the world to determine how we can leverage that data. And I'd love to just share a few examples with you. I'm going to take financial inclusion for an example. It's estimated globally that there's 1.6 billion people that are unbanked. And financial inclusion plays a critical role in enabling access to credit, which in turn enables people to thrive in healthy ways with healthy, affordable credit. At Experian, we're helping more people to improve their financial health, to enable them to get better access to credit. So a few examples that I thought I'd share. In the UK, over the pandemic, we launched Experian Boost. And Experian Boost is a really unique product that allows people to share their data with the Bureau, data like their payment history of Netflix and Amazon and council tax that will immediately help them to improve their credit scores. In Asia, our Power Score product has given 180 million people in Indonesia a credit profile for the very first time, which means that over 1 million applications for credit products have been made. Power Score is interesting because it leverages data from the way that people use their mobile phone versus the Bureau, which isn't where we're going to find these people. So together with data from existing and alternative sources, we're helping those new to credit build a profile. And then the last example I would give is that we built a smartphone app called Gelazar in South Africa, which aims to bring more people into the mainstream economy through their mobile behavior and through their mobile data, which is going to enable micro entrepreneurs who are small mom and pop and female-led shops who are working in their kitchens to build their baking business, to build an alternative credit score using hundreds of these mobile data points. So we're just really, really focused on the ways that we can use data and technology to really advance a consumer's ability to thrive.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really, really great examples there. Katika, what are your thoughts?
I have a few of them. What's interesting about that is the majority of those who are unbanked are women. And that is actually critically important. The control over the ability to own property and control over your economic standing is critical to your ability to have freedom and thrive. It's also a global economic issue. So making sure that people are banked is also a gender equity issue. That's one thing. The second thing, Julie, that I was thinking about when you were talking was ties back to what I talked about in the first question, which is this whole idea of or reality around bias in AI and why it's so important that not only now are we focusing on ensuring equity in tech positions, but also equitable skilling. So we're ensuring that not only are we skilling people equitably, but that they have the equitable opportunity to actually apply those skills. There's basically two sides to that. And because we see that in credit, because right, you could have and one example of that is the Apple Card, and what happened in there was bias in the underwriting for women's credit limits who had the same assets as men, and the only difference was their gender. And so when we talk about the future of work, that's just one example of something that we can fix.
Yeah.
Another piece of that is that with remote work, and remote work is continuing, we still, I mean, obviously all of us are remote here speaking at this conference, that's continuing on, and this hybrid work environment will continue, on. That's not going to change. And so as we see that, one of the things that we know, if you look at just the dynamics of what happened with women during the pandemic, is that their unpaid labor increased by 153%. And so they are more, yeah, I was already bad. And it went from bad to really, really, really bad. And so women are more likely to take advantage of hybrid work or remote work. And while that's a good thing, the issue is that if we don't understand the biases that arise from women working remotely, we could actually set ourselves farther back. It's first, we got to get them in the workforce, right? We need to get those millions of women who left the workforce back participating in the labor force. And then we need to ensure that they actually have equity of opportunity. The things that we know from research and from our implementations is that especially in a hybrid work environment, managers view those workers that work remotely as sort of an out of sight, out of mind. They're less likely to be promoted. They are undervalued in their performance reviews, which we know through our implementations are really an anchor to not only your performance rating, but how much you get paid, how you get developed into future leadership positions, how you can move laterally in the organization, but also be promoted in the organization, as well as it's more difficult to speak up virtually. Here's what's interesting about that. Artificial intelligence is also the tool to hardwire equity into the future of work, into hybrid work. And 65% of HR professionals agree that at scale, so you take a company like Experian, like many large enterprise global companies, it's virtually impossible without technology to ensure equity. Because you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of decisions that you're making. But with technology, we can actually catapult ourselves forward toward equity. And in a financial crisis, like in an economic downturn, the returns for that are actually twice what they are in normal times. That is, any publicly traded company that puts equity at the core of their crisis management strategy sees a 50% increase in their stock price, just through that one piece. And that's important for everybody.
Yeah, no, and it's so fascinating, and actually quite a sort of hope-filled set of stats there, because all of us, I think, particularly on this conversation as part of Accelerate Her, we want to have equity at the heart of our economy and society of the future, don't we? So yeah, really great to hear that the sort of the positive options coming out, as well as some of those risks that we all face and that we need to work against. Because we are all here as part of Accelerate Her, and given some of the things you've both said, which I find honestly so fascinating, I guess I'm interested to ask you how you think women leaders in tech, such as yourselves, can empower every woman to create a better future. And I'm interested in any sort of personal or professional reflections you've got, and how have you found navigating your journey as a woman in this sector, and what advice can you give to some of the people who might be listening? Julie.
Well, I take that first? Okay,
yeah.
Great. So, Katika, there's so much in what you said, and we need to spend some serious time together, because I couldn't agree more. And listen, I'm glad you asked the leadership question, because actually I think that it is going to be up to us as leaders and leaders in general to bring those diverse voices to the table. We can't let people hide. We can't let people, we can't let the hybrid working and the digital working environments keep people from shining. And that's going to take a significant amount of extra effort. And I think that that is something that we owe the women within our organization and the women that we're trying to bring into our organizations. And I would say that, a big piece of my role as a female leader is that not only do I need to coach men and mentor women, but I need to actually sponsor them throughout the organization, both my organization and other organizations. And I believe that that's fundamentally different than coaching or mentoring. That's actually helping them navigate and having those really tough conversations with them around, you're not throwing your hat into there. I just had a conversation not 30 minutes ago with a brilliant woman within our organization. Her boss has just left, and I said, you've got to throw your hat into the ring. And she said, but I've got so many gaps. And it felt like a bad movie that I was in. And I thought, great, let's identify the gaps. Let's figure out how we close those gaps. But before we do that, you've got to throw your hat into the ring. You've got to make yourself uncomfortable. And as you do, and this is a message that I share all the time, as you do throw your hat in the ring with all that doubt, you have to remember that everyone has imposter syndrome. Men, women, everybody's got it. So you've just got to lean in and do things that make you uncomfortable and do things that scare you. And I realize that that is a message that we've got to be driving home, not just from female leaders to our people, but as leaders in general.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes total sense. And, really great to hear your passion when you're talking there, Julie. And I'm interested as well that you picked up on that point about mentors and sponsors, because I think that is something that we certainly think about a lot, both in DCMS, the department, but also in the sort of wider work we're doing in the tech sector. And in DCMS, we've committed to be the most diverse and inclusive department in Whitehall by 2025, and we're obviously trying to increase our ethnicity, disability representation rates, but also kind of close the inclusion gap between the majority and minority groups in the department, and build our understanding about these challenges of our biases so that we can eradicate racism and embed diversity and inclusion in ourselves. And we've got some practical things we've been doing around trying to promote job share partnerships and tools to help colleagues, which often are not only women but people who want to work flexibly, because that can help at certain points of your careers, can't it? But as you are saying as well, really trying to encourage mentoring, because I think often for any of us at certain points of our career, just speaking to somebody else who's been through some of those issues, and as you say, just giving the confidence to say, don't focus on the gaps, go for it. That's really what you need to do, I think, can be so important. But Katika, what's your experience on these issues?
A couple things. One, and then I would just want to share a personal story, but one of the things that we know is that, so I would, and I think, Julie, you made a really important point of sponsorship versus mentorship, because women are over mentored and under sponsored. We are essentially in a system that was designed not to value us equitably, and yet many of the solutions that we often design to help women are fixing women's leadership programs and applying for jobs, et cetera. They're all designed to fix women versus fix the system. And women are, as I said, under mentored, over sponsored. Female founders are over mentored and underfunded. And that got worse last year, and all the sort of structural pieces you have to learn to try. We're venture backed to raise money in a world, no matter what your degree, your pedigree is, you're just simply not valued equitably. But I think the thing that I want to share is a personal story about something that it's my family history, but it has a huge impact on me and why I actually started Pipeline, which is that I am the daughter and sister of refugees. And my father escaped from Hungary after the fall of the 1956 revolution with my three eldest sisters, who were 3, 7, and 8 at the time. And with the help of Hungarian freedom fighters, they walked across a minefield and arrived to a refugee camp in Austria. And less than 2 months into their stay at the refugee camp, President Eisenhower sent Air Force One to bring 21 Hungarian refugees to the United States on Christmas Day, 1956. And what I think about is are two things. One is the decision that my father made, and going in a matter of 2 months from risking your daughter's lives to watching them climb the stairs of Air Force One to freedom. And the second is that I sit here with you today, or stand here with you today in this session, and have the opportunity to create pipeline because one person in a position of power, who happened to be President Eisenhower, said, "Not on my watch. This will not happen. These people matter. I will stand up." And that really was why I created Pipeline. I'm the youngest of 6. 3 of us were born in this country, in the United States. We were, raised with the very clear understanding of the opportunities that we had, and we had an obligation to do something with them. And so, as a breadwinner mom who fought to be paid equitably twice and won, I use the opportunities that were given to me to make the world more equitable for other people, to say not on my watch. And so there are people who have gotten paid equitably, who have gotten more opportunity, who have gotten developed, who I've never met simply because of that piece. And so what I would say is, if you are a leader, you have an obligation to stand up. It is your responsibility as a leader to stand up and say, "Not on my watch." Your voice matters. And it can make a huge difference, not only in the people who work with you, but the ripple effect. I'm a breadwinner mom. Any economic decision that impacts me impacts 3 other people. That's a tremendous impact that you can have.
Yeah. Wow. What an amazingly passionate and, just significant set of things you've just said there, Katika. I actually felt really moved when you were telling that story. But I couldn't agree more. As you say, each of us in our roles as leaders can make a difference, but it's really important that we stand up and do make a difference. It's not enough just to point out all the barriers and the things that don't work. And I think, whether it's small scale, personal, family situations, but as you have done, then taking that and driving real change through your own professional day-to-day job, it's incredibly impressive. But how well you have explained that. Julie, back to you. Any areas you want to add? I feel almost like that was such an important speech you just made. We should stop right there, but I feel like we'll go a little bit further, and then we'll draw this conversation to a close. But thank you, Katika. That was really, really great.
Listen, I mean, that's hard to top. And Katika, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And, I am a breadwinner mom as well. I've never heard it called that, and I like it. I'm going with it. And I'm really proud of that. And I think it's a really important message for my daughter. I think it's a really important message for other women. I think that, when we think about people who have inspired us along the way, I can say that my husband has inspired me massively. And as much as I'm really lucky and I've got this incredible network of brilliant women that I surround myself with, I always have him pushing me. And I always have him pushing me to say, wait, hang on. How come that person can do it? You could do it. And I think that, it is really important to sort of have that support system around you. And, I love Not on My Watch, and I'll cite my source, but I'm gonna copy you.
Well, I think we're going to draw it to a close there, guys, because, it's been such a pleasure to be with both of you today and to think a bit about some of these important topics. I think we all feel really strongly about Accelerate Her and how we can help our colleagues, female founders, women in the tech sector, and frankly, women more broadly in society. It's been so nice of you both to give us your insights and your time and your passion and your commitment. So thank you very much. And to everybody listening, I hope you are enjoying London Tech Week and that you get a lot out of it. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you.